what to do if your EHCP is not being followed. So you've got an EHCP, the provision in it is not being followed, a really common situation. The amount of times I've seen people post on the group in despair because schools are not making the provision in an EHCP. So the thing to remember is the legal duty to make EHCP provision is not the schools, it rests with the local authority. The school is not legally responsible, which is a bit counterintuitive because the school has to provide the provision. So you'd expect them to be responsible. So many parents then fall out with the school, start putting complaints into the school. It's the wrong person. It doesn't change anything. The relationship gets worse and worse because the parents complaining to the school's doing nothing because it's not actually their responsibility. Yeah, if your provision is not being made in your child's EHCP, you should definitely talk to your school, meet with the SENCO. If that doesn't solve it, meet with the head. If that doesn't solve it, you need to put in a formal complaint to your local authority. That's who you need to be putting the complaints into. You could do it in partnership with your school if your school's happy to. But if the school's kind of like, you're on your own with this, we don't want to get involved, then that's fine. You've got a right to put in a complaint yourself. And that complaint can then help the school to receive more funding or a kick up the backside if that's what they need to do that. The way you would need to put in a complaint to your local authority is through the local authority's online complaints process. Google the name of your local authority and complaint, and it'll come up. The reason to do it that way is that it gets logged into their computer, and once the complaint's been logged through a computerized system, it's far more accountable. It can't just get lost or forgotten. Yes.
I didn't receive the email thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we didn't receive that, or
yeah.
I didn't have a message from anybody, and before you know where you are, it's another stalling tactic, isn't it? It just pushes the timescales on and infuriates you more.
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And feel free to copy it to your director of children's services at your local authority. Do email them, copy it into them as well. Absolutely. But don't bypass logging it through the formal process too. And just remember, the key thing here really to think about is that people do think that schools have the power in the EHC process. It feels like when that EHCP is finalised, it's handed over to the school and it becomes their responsibility. It isn't. It's still a contract with the local authority. Parents really hold all that power to challenge, not schools. There's a link to an EHCP model letter in the slides. You can see it there. It's the third bullet down, complaining to a local authority. That letter is a template letter. You can just click, you can just go into the link and it'll open up that model letter and you can fill in the gaps. So that would help you to make a complaint. Be careful. I've said this before. You might have seen it on a snip somewhere on the group. There's often some small print in a complaint that says if the local authority don't hear from the complainant, that's you, within 5 working days, they will assume the complainant is now satisfied and they will close the complaint. So you put in your complaint, you get a letter back saying thank you for your complaint, we'll be in touch. They then sit and wait. You do nothing. You wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, nothing, and they close it because they haven't heard from you. In the meantime, they assume everything's all right. So my advice is also just email them every week just to say, any news on my complaint yet? Any news on my complaint yet? That's all it needs to say. But if you just diary it and hassle them every week, then they can't just quietly close it. There's 2 stages usually, sometimes 3 to the formal complaints process. They're different in different local authorities. You would be complaining, first of all, at stage 1. If you're not happy with that, then you can go to stage 2. If there is a 3rd stage, you can go to the 3rd stage. Once you've been through all of the stages, if you are still not happy, if things haven't changed, if you're not happy with the outcome, you can go to the local government and social care ombudsman. They are totally separate from local authority. And in my experience, they are a pretty friendly and accessible team. And they will publicly name and shame local authorities, and in some instances they can issue some small amounts of compensation, which means that the local authority would have to pay you compensation. We have a blog on enforcing your plan. All this information I'm giving you today is in the blog with links, and there's a lot more detail in there as well. So that's worth having a look at. It's on our website and there's links on the slides to our blogs. The only other option to enforce an EHC plan is judicial review. You will have heard about judicial review. I'm sure there's a link to it there, and there's some link to some more information. Now, the pros and cons of using the local authorities complaint process or judicial review are: local authorities complaint process is free. You can trigger it at any time. You are directly involved with it. It will take some time. It is a bit stressful. Judicial review must be done by a solicitor. If anyone tells you you can write your own judicial review pre-action protocol letter, they are wrong. The local authority will know that you are not a solicitor. They will know that you cannot take judicial review and they will ignore it. You need a solicitor to write the judicial review pre-action protocol letter. There is a cost to that. It is hundreds. I mean, anywhere £400 upwards. SOS SEN do I think £150, £200 version, but there's long waits for that. A judicial review pre-action protocol letter is likely to make a difference quickly. So these are the pros. It's likely to make a difference. It's likely to make a difference much quicker than complaining. However, there's a significant cost to it. And the other thing to remember is if the local authority ignore that pre-action protocol letter, you are starting high court action against the local authority. So if they did choose to ignore it, yeah, you would get legal aid for it in the child's name. You don't get legal aid for the pre-action protocol part, only the main judicial review part. And it is incredibly lengthy. I mean, you are talking, potentially years for things to wing through the High Court. Yeah,
it's a very long time, because you will have to prove that you are trying really hard to work with your local authority, even if the local authority don't want to work hard with you. It's the onus is on you to be playing fairer than they are, and it's not anybody that says to you it's a quick fix. It is not a quick fix, and if you go down the PAP, the pre-action protocol route, in the background you must always be prepared for your local authority to turn around and go, no, sorry, you can make the threat, but you've got to be prepared to carry it out if you're going to make it, and carrying it out is very lengthy and it's very expensive, and you will need a barrister.
Yeah. So, key message: if you want to complain about provision not being made, don't waste time challenging your school about the provision not being made. It is a waste of time. Talk to them. But if you don't get anywhere, gather your evidence, put in a formal complaint to your local authority, and potentially consider judicial review. Those are your only two options.